listeners and viewers. Welcome to Kaduna State Ministry of Education Radio and TV e-learning program designed for our SS3 and other students staying at home due to the coronavirus pandemic. The present administration, under the able leadership of His Excellency, Malam Nasir Ahmed El-Rufai, is positioned, as always, to ensure that under his leadership, our students are not left behind in all areas of human endeavors, especially education. Kaduna State is the center of learning. Therefore, we want to ensure that our students excel in their forthcoming examinations and beyond. Students and other learners at home are given this opportunity in order to continue learning, as education is a continuous process. Different subjects will be taught in this program to assist students to perform excellently in the forthcoming Senior School Certificate examination being conducted by NECO and WAEC as soon as schools reopen. Teachers making presentations will always provide their names and phone numbers during each presentation, and they can be contacted for questions, further explanations, and/or clarifications. The following numbers and contacts can also be reached for expression of any concern or observation: 090-865-00545 or 080-383-62072. Our website is www.education.kdsg.gov.ng. Our email, education@kdsg.gov.ng or education.kdsg@gmail.com. Our YouTube channel, Ministry of Education, Kaduna State. Our Twitter handle, @Kaduna_MOE. Or our Facebook page, Ministry of Education, Kaduna State. Stay safe, stay at home, and learn well. Thank you, happy listening, and happy viewing.
Hello, students. You are welcome into another segment of our geography class. My name is Mr. Marcus Adamu, and the topic of our discussion today is satellite remote sensing. Satellite remote sensing. In our previous class, we learned about climatic change, where we define climatic change as a significant and long-lasting change in the statistical distribution of weather patterns over a long period of time. We're able to look at the causes of climatic change, the consequences of climatic change, and we also prefer possible solutions that, when put into practice, will greatly reduce the effect of climatic change in our environment. Today, we are looking at satellite remote sensing. Under satellite remote sensing, we have three important concepts that we shall look at. 1, remote sensing. 2, satellite. 3, satellite remote sensing or remote sensing satellite. We want to start by looking at remote sensing. What is remote sensing? Remote sensing simply means the act of obtaining information about something or objects without being in direct contact with it. A good example, we can get information about the moon or the sun without being to the moon or to the sun. For example, let me use the sun and have a brief explanation about it. Our distance from where we are, that is from the Earth to the sun, is about 148,800,000 kilometers. And the surface temperature of the sun is said to be 6,000 degrees Celsius. For example, we cannot use the human brain and understand how hot the sun is. For instance, ordinary water that we boil on daily basis. The temperature of that water before it starts boiling will only be 100 degrees Celsius. And you cannot dip your hand inside that water. Why? Because it is hot. You can imagine another object having a temperature, surface temperature of about 6,000 degrees Celsius. Honestly speaking, you cannot make use of the human brain and understand how hot the sun is. The same thing, remote sensing provides us with useful tools for environmental and natural resources management, which helps in the appropriate utilization of the resources of a country. Through the use of remote sensing, employment opportunities are available in a wider range of areas, such as in agriculture, in forestry, in coastal development and management, urban planning and development, medical technology, mapping and planning, disasters mitigation, and environmental management, etc. Next is satellite. What is a satellite? A satellite is an artificial body that displays in an orbit around the Earth or another planet in order to collect information. When we talk of an orbit is that path through which the Earth and other planets revolving around the Sun. And the essence of it is to do what? To collect information. A satellite is also a celestial body orbiting the Earth or another planet. An object in an orbit is also called a satellite. A satellite can be natural. For example, the Earth's natural satellite is the moon. Or it can be man-made or human, which we refer to it as extraterrestrial. A good example is the NICOMSAT. Satellite can travel around planets or around stars, such as the Sun. Satellite remote sensing. A satellite remote sensing is also called remote sensing satellite. It's a satellite that studies the Earth's surface and atmosphere. It uses powerful cameras to scan the planet. It then sends back data or information about the global environment to a ground-based station. It is in these ground-based stations that this scanned material is now analyzed, computed and analyzed, and thereby giving us the information about other planets, How is satellite remote sensing applicable? We said yes. Application of satellite remote sensing. Satellite remote sensing can be applicable in virtually every human endeavors. For instance, it is applicable in forestry. Remote sensing is a very useful tool for assessment of environmental conditions, either in an existing forest or prior to planting new ones. The forest is an important global resource that human population depend on, either for food, for wood, for air, for recreation, and sometimes serve as habitat for animal species. When the distribution of forest species is known, it can be incorporated into a detailed and extensive maps, which can be used to plan logging and regrowth. By using remote sensing data, foresters, that is those that looked after the forest, can make optimally informed decisions in whatever they want to do. They can be aware of the species distribution. In a forest, the projected yield from logging of areas which contains habitats that cannot be distributed, and how much land is needed for growth of settlement. Through the use of this remote sensing, we have this knowledge. Secondly, environment. Remote sensing is equally useful in the study of the environment. Some of the applications of remote sensing to the environment include: 1, it is suitable in determining the direction and speed of wind. Through the help of the knowledge of remote sensing, we can be able to know exactly the direction of the wind, either it is moving northeast or southwest, etc. 2, it helps environmentalists to determine possible periods of flooding and how it can be controlled. If these periods of flooding are detected, then the inhabitants can now be informed on what to do. Most of the times in some countries, the inhabitants can be evacuated before the flooding commenced. That alone will reduce the implications or the disasters that may likely happen. 3, it can also be used to determine how hot or cold climatic conditions can affect the activities of humans and makes efforts to control them. Number 4, it also helps in detecting the types, nature, and controls of environmental pollution. What is an environmental pollution? It is the introduction of harmful substances into the environment, either in water or air or land, in quantity that is harmful to the living organisms and also to the environment. Number 3, remote sensing is applicable in agriculture. With the increasing population and the need for increasing agricultural products, there is great need for improvement in the management of the world's agricultural resources. Satellite remote sensing technology is a very important factor in the improvement of the present system of acquiring and generating agricultural resources data or information. This data collected will help in determining crop health, irrigated landscapes, yield output, and soil analysis. When this is done, it helps greatly in the output that we get from our agricultural activities.
Good day. Welcome to another edition of Kaduna State.
4, telecommunication. Satellite remote sensing is more useful and relevant in telecommunication globally. Satellite remote sensing has played a pivotal role in telecommunication in the following ways. 1, satellite remote sensing has contributed in ensuring effective reception of telephony all over the world. We make calls with our relations outside the shore of this country, and we get effective communication. Without the knowledge of satellite remote sensing, I want to assure us that the receptions that we received when communicating with other people will not be very possible, or we may not get it the way we want. Number 2, satellite remote sensing has made it possible to relate findings or reports of the moon to the Earth. Number 3, satellite remote sensing has made it possible for regional, national, and international communication without being in direct contact with human beings. 4, satellite remote sensing has helped in the use of communication in facilitating the landing and taking off of aircraft and sea transportation. You can see these are the areas through which satellite remote sensing is very effective in telecommunication. The 5th one, we want to look at transportation. Satellite remote sensing is also useful to the transportation network in the following ways. 1, it improves the trafficability of the roads and railways, thereby making unnecessary accidents or challenges very, very minimal. Number 2, it has also contributed greatly in the movement of aeroplanes, jets, and even see beyond the bounds of the human eyesight, which is also known as infrared. What then is the relationship that exists between geographic information system and remote sensing? What is geographic information system? Geographic information system is a geographical tool which can do the work of a computer by creating data or information, while remote sensing, which is also known as the RS, is the act of obtaining information about something without being in contact with it. The relationship that exists between these two are: one, both have the ability to look at spatial data in different layers. Spatial data is information we obtain from space. 2, both can take the form of computer software to create, analyze, and manipulate spatial data or information. Both have this ability to see beyond the bounds of the human eyesight. So what your eyes can see with the use of satellite remote sensing, it sees beyond what the eyes can see. And then 4th, both can take the form of a vector or a data. 5thly, both have the ability to observe large areas in less time. You can see a very large area within a very short time. In geography, both serve as tools in studying spatial phenomena from a very far distance. That is the relationship which exists between geographical information system and remote sensing. The last but not the least is both are useful in many applications. For example, in agriculture, a geographic information system and remote sensing is applicable. Likewise, in sea navigation and searching of data. So all this knowledge, when effectively you put into use, will give us what we want, and it will help in the development of any country or any sector. We're through with satellite remote sensing, but before I go, let's summarize or have a kind of recap. We've started by looking at what is satellite remote sensing, and we discovered that we have 3 major concepts that are involved in satellite remote sensing. And what are these three concepts? The first one we discuss is remote sensing. And we define remote sensing as the act of obtaining information on objects or something without being in direct contact with it. Then we also have an example of such types, like information we get from either the moon or the sun. Then we also look at a satellite, where we say it is an artificial body that is placed in an orbit around the Earth. And the purpose of that is to scan the Earth and other planets, and this is done through the use of very powerful instruments. Then we also look at satellite remote sensing, where we said it is the study of the Earth's surface and atmosphere. It uses very powerful cameras to scan the planets. It then sends back data or information about the global environment to ground-based stations. Then we are able also to look at areas through which satellite remote sensing is applicable, where we said that it is applicable virtually in every aspect of human endeavors. For example, it is applicable in forestry, it is applicable in the environment, it is applicable in telecommunication, it is also applicable in agriculture. Then we are able also to look at relationship that exists between geographic information system and also remote sensing, where we highlight some of the ways through which this relationship exists. One, we said both of them have the ability to look at spatial data or information in different layers of the atmosphere. Two, both can take the form of computer software to create, to analyze, and also to manipulate spatial data or information. We also say that both of them have the ability to see beyond the bounds of the human eyesight. Both can take the form of a vector or data. Both have the ability to serve large areas in a less time. In geography, both of them serve as tools in studying spatial phenomena from a distance. Spatial phenomena, these are phenomena that we cannot exactly comprehend. Then both are used in many applications. For example, we use them in agriculture, we use them in sea navigation or sea transportation. We also use them in searching of what? Data, etc. Now, before I go, I need to give you this assignment. And the assignment is, question 1, briefly explain the following concept. 1A, remote sensing. 1B, satellite. 1C, satellite remote sensing. Question 2A, list and explain any 3 applications of remote sensing. B, explain any 4 relationships between geographic information system, GIS, and remote sensing. Let me repeat the question once more. Question 1, briefly explain the following concept. A, remote sensing. B, satellite. And C, satellite remote sensing. Question 2A, list and explain any 3 applications of remote sensing. Then explain any 4 relationships between geographic information system, and remote sensing. In question 1, for instance, you are asked to briefly explain. So all you need to do is to state the definition of the 3 concepts and also add 1 or 2 more sentences which will give us an idea on what these concepts are all about. You can do question 2, and if you need more clarification, you can contact me. You can contact me through this WhatsApp number. Once again, my name is Marcus Adamu, and the phone number is 080-3313-9758. I repeat the number again, 080-3313-9758. My dear student, I want to appeal to you. Stay at home, stay safe, keep learning. COVID-19 is real.